All right. Our next speaker today is Tracey. He's the Deputy National Secretary of the Maritime Union of Australia.
Comrades, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I want to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and paying my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I also want to take the opportunity to acknowledge those officials from Gippsland, from the Latrobe Valley, those workers from the Latrobe Valley that have travelled up here today who are so dependent on the coal industry and fossil fuel for their livelihoods and the livelihoods of their communities. I want to thank members of the MUA who work in the offshore oil and gas industry who are here today, as well in good numbers, because for these workers in the Latrobe, for those workers who work in the oil and gas, the concept of a move to a low emission economy is not an arbitrary concept. For these workers, for their families, for their communities, we're talking about something that when they transition to away from fossil fuels to a low emission economy is very, very real for them. It has a massive impact on these workers, a massive impact on their families, a massive impact on the communities in which they live, and for many of them have lived for many, many generations. And when we look to the current experience in this country about jobs in the renewable sector, by and large, many of those jobs have been, and this is the experience that we see and live, many of those jobs have been casual jobs, especially in the blue collar space. Many of those jobs have been casual jobs, often done by itinerant labour, often done by backpackers, on shit-house rates of pay, and on very little conditions, real conditions of employment. And this is what workers in the fossil fuel industry see and their communities see when we talk about the transition to jobs in the renewable sector. And so, is it any wonder when workers are presented with that choice that we get election results like we saw earlier this year in North Queensland, where workers are presented what they see as a binary choice between their jobs and their communities on the one hand and the environment on the other. And is it any surprise that every day of the week they're going to vote for their jobs and their communities? And we need to appreciate that this is a very real fact for these workers who have been asked to bear, largely on their own, the brunt of the transition from fossil fuels. And if we don't get this right, we will continue to see election results that set us back decades in relation to dealing with and presenting a very viable alternative in respect of a transition to a low emission economy. And it's absolutely important that if we're going to talk about a move away from fossil fuels, and it is a position that my union supports, and we are the union broadly across all of our divisions that represent oil and gas workers and coal communities, and communities that rely on workers in the oil and gas industry for their future, that we are able to present in the renewable sector jobs that are stable, long-term, well paid, union conditions, union wages on union agreements. This is something that we need to be able to deliver, and that's the hope and the aspiration of a project like Star of the South. That for the first time in this country, we are able to practically put in place what this concept of just transition can mean. That we have an ability to present for the first time union jobs, union conditions, union agreements. Set up a transition in the economy that allows proper diversification, renewable manufacturing. This is the opportunity that this project presents. And it's not going to be easy, comrades. We're going to have to campaign, politically, industrially, socially, but it's achievable. We need to mark a line in the sand. This project, at the scale it's been built, Australia's largest renewable energy project, has a chance to deliver a future for us that doesn't discard workers in the fossil fuel sector and their communities, but includes them. That's what this project presents. This project for the first time presents a real example, a lived example of just transition. And comrades, I urge you, because we do, to get behind this report, because this report is a campaign plan, a call to action, to be able to provide the sort of jobs that we as workers, environmentalists, politicians can believe in. that delivers for workers and doesn't discard them. Comrades, we urge you to get behind this. We urge you to endorse this as a campaign plan for action that will deliver a just transition that we can finally believe in.